thank you very much for joining me. So, to get started, please tell us about your new book.
Thank you so much for having me on. So, my new book is called Raising the SEN-Betweeners, and it's basically about my journey raising two autistic children. And recently, I've been diagnosed myself as well.
Okay. Uh, what were the main inspirations for writing it? Was it your children or other things as well?
Yeah, so some of it was basically to raise awareness because there's a lot of people out there that don't understand about hidden disabilities and can judge a lot and things. So I wanted to raise some awareness, and I also wanted parents to not feel alone on this journey. Um, on this journey, when you become a parent, especially of neurodivergent children, you find that your group gets a lot smaller. A lot of people tend to not talk to you anymore. You don't get invited to things, and you can end up feeling quite isolated. And especially when you don't really know what you're doing, because there is no guidebook, unfortunately, with raising children, especially raising children with additional needs.
Uh, so this book, I imagine, is looking to fill that gap, as it were.
Yes, that's what we hope to do because there's a lot of books out there on autism and focusing on children that are non-verbal and high care needs and things, whereas my children don't really fall into that gap. They are basically they can't cope with mainstream, but they're also sort of not severe enough for a SEND school. So I call them sort of the in-between ones because they don't often get a lot of support and help because a lot of people dismissed them, especially my son, because he was academic and he was verbal, and people expect more from him, but he still has a lot of struggles and a lot of anxiety and things.
What was it like finding out that both your children were autistic, and what was your response to that?
Well, to be honest, by the time they got diagnosed, I knew really well before that anyway that they were autistic. I'd sort of researched it by then, and everything was pointing back to autism. So it was more of a relief when we got the diagnosis because before that, I felt like people weren't listening and didn't understand. And I just, I felt relief that they might start getting support and understand themselves more, and people would understand them more.
And what was your journey? What was it, your experiences with autism? And as you said, you just found out you've been diagnosed with it. So what's your experiences been like?
Well, I've always struggled with friendships and things like that throughout my school life. And I there was a lot of things that we didn't realise at the time was autism, but I didn't like parties. I wouldn't go to parks if there were other children in them, didn't like sleepovers. I really struggled all the way through school and absolutely hated it, and really struggled with my mental health in the teenage years. And I think that maybe if I'd had more support and understood myself more, it might have been a little bit better for me.
How is it, how important is it that people get diagnosed, and how can they go about doing this?
I think it's really important for people to get diagnosed. I think it's important for employers to know, the schools to know so that they can put adjustments in place for that person. And I think it's really important for the person themselves to get that diagnosis so they can understand and be kinder to themselves. I think with myself, I think I've masked a lot throughout my life and done a lot of things and said yes to things that I really didn't want to do and didn't feel comfortable doing. And I think now that I've got that diagnosis, it sort of gives me a little bit of confidence to say, actually, no, that's going to be too much for me.
And this book, as someone who I'm autistic myself, so with this book, if I was to become an autistic parent, how will it help me if I have neurodivergent or neurotypical children?
So I'm hoping that it will help people to understand their children a little bit better and understand sort of their triggers as well that can sometimes be caused by our children because obviously being autistic myself, I can get overwhelmed and too much noise, too much touch. And obviously when you have children, they sort of don't know those boundaries. And it's really important to take those moments for yourself and understand how to get through those. So I've got some tips throughout it, tips of navigating the school system and things like that. And just to make life feel a little bit easier and that you're not alone on this journey.
And what were some of the, please tell us through how you wrote it. What were some of the best parts and what were some of the challenges?
So I loved writing it on the whole because it was basically like therapy for me, to be honest, getting all of these ideas in my head and writing them all down. Obviously I've been doing social media for a while now, and so I had sort of all these ideas there. Some of the hard bits was looking back and reliving some of those early stages because before I knew it was autism, I didn't really do things the correct way and I made a lot of mistakes. And I got quite upset, like looking back at some of those times and thinking, I wish I'd gone back and known what I know now. But I think also on the flip side, I've learned from those mistakes, and actually, those were the moments that changed a lot of things and made things better for us as well. So, and in making those mistakes, I've made this book, to show people, the rights and the wrong ways of doing things sometimes as well.
And what has been the response from family and friends of the book?
They've been so supportive. They've been amazing. And, I've got some friends that have high care needs, non-verbal children, and they've still related to it. And I've got some people that don't have autistic children, and they've, excuse me, they said that they've learned so much from it. So I've had some really, really positive reactions from it, which is brilliant.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Was there anything
Thank
you'd like
you.
to add?
No, that's it. Thank you.